Take your mind back to the fourth quarter of 2019. During that time, we were making our plans, especially our sales plans for 2020. Our profit, our revenue, our market penetration, a lot of plans were made. How did those work out? The response to the pandemic changed most of our plans. For some organizations, they had their best years yet, and for others, they struggled, and a few even went out of business. What made the difference? It was preparation, anticipation, trying to read the tea leaves of the marketplace to see what was really going on and prepare ourselves accordingly. Well, during that time, I had to change my approach to the marketplace, to speaking, training, and consulting, because we were unable to travel. Would you help me by clicking the like button below? It's what? The like button. Oh, that makes more sense, doesn't it? Explains some things. Would you click the like button below? Thank you. I was actually in Los Angeles at the time doing 3 consecutive sessions with CEOs. During the second session at midday, about halfway through my presentation, the alarm bells rang. Half of the members left. Everybody else was looking at, well, what will we do now? I could not find a flight back home, so I had to go and find a hotel, keep the rental car because the shuttle buses were not working, and find a way to do a presentation virtually immediately. Well, we beefed up the studio here and made some other changes, and then I learned that my clients needed to be able to present virtually better. So I created virtual interactive value-added selling, the key word being interactive. If we can't be face-to-face with the customer, how do we enhance our presentations? Well, we know we're going to be there visually. We know we're going to be there audibly. And of the 5 senses, what else could we do? Well, taste and smell are out. So how do we engage customers physically to involve interaction virtually? Well, I was then asked to create Viva, virtual, interactive, value-added customer service and value-added leadership. As the pandemic wound down and the mask began to come off, I developed value-added selling in a post-pandemic environment. Now notice the byline. The rules have changed, the principles have not. The principles of sales do not change, or they change very slowly. But the processes that we use, the techniques that we use change dramatically. And so I developed value-added selling in a post-pandemic environment. And then as the economy began to deteriorate, I created how to sell successfully in a recession. Some industries, some markets went into recession sooner than others and deeper than others, so I was able to help people go with that. Well, then the question became, what's next? That's what this video is all about, helping you prepare to use 2023 to prepare for 2024. It's going to be an interesting 18 months. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a prophet or a seer or even a forecaster, but I do know how to read the tea leaves, especially as it relates to sales. As 2022 fades into the sunset and the shiny new 2023 comes on board, how long will it be before the luster is gone off of 2023? And as it fades, are we in a position to begin planning for 2024 despite all the questions about what 2024 is going to bring with it? And that's what we're going to be talking about. So let's start looking at the future of sales, the future of your sales organization, the future that you have as a sales individual, a sales leader, or a chief sales officer. We're going to look at some projections, and here are the indicators that I'm seeing right now. First of all, the layoffs from the big guys. Now, people tell me we're not a big company, we're not a Fortune 500, we're a mid-market company, so what difference does it make that the big guys are laying people off? They're a bellwether. That's what's coming next. Look at some of the companies that began laying off in the fourth quarter of 2022. People like Amazon at the height of the Christmas season, the shipping season, and Walmart. And by the way, both of them now are using drones to make their deliveries. They're looking at better ways of doing everything. Then we look at some of the high-tech layoffs. Obviously, Twitter was a one-off, but many of the high-tech organizations had too many people. They had too many perks, too many frills. Do we? Probably not, or maybe we do. So how will we cut back if the economy sours even more, if regulations increase? What will we do differently? The companies that thrived during the pandemic are the ones who ask those questions ahead of time. We can expect some more disruption in the supply chain. One that we're all going to be impacted by is agriculture. When we look at ag, we see, well, there's fertilizer and there's seeds, and then there's fuel to run the equipment, and then there are interest rates. Why are interest rates important for agriculture? Because farmers have a short-term loan to buy the fertilizer and the seed, and they pay the loan back when the crops come in. With what's going on in Eastern Europe, the Ukraine and Russia, there'll be less fertilizer next year. When the supply goes down, what happens to the demand? It goes up. What happens to the price? It goes up. And so are we going to be paying more for things like food? Well, probably so. But what else is going to impact your business and your life and your sales team? Fuels are going to impact all of us. Whether we buy something that's going to be shipped to us or we're putting gas in our cars, that's going to be a factor. Sovereign debt, keep an eye on that. Especially in Europe. It's not going to hit the U.S. as soon as it will hit Europe, but there are going to be some changes over there that might impact you even if you're not an international business. Civil distrust. Oh my goodness. It doesn't matter who wins the election. The other people say the election was rigged. We are looking at a disruption in the culture that's going to turn into some kind of disruption that might include violence. How will that impact your business, your employees, and your customers? And then the weather. Even the weather is having a significant impact now. Ask anybody who tried to fly Southwest over the Christmas holidays. So we're looking at all these factors that could impact our year, and I look at it strictly through the lens of sales. What's going to happen to sales? Well, this is based on the fact that I interact with major organizations, helping them prepare for their quarterly earnings report. I also work with mid-market companies to help them grow their revenue. I also work with mid-market companies to help them prepare for their exit event so they can maximize their investment of time and energy in their business. And I also work with startup companies, and sometimes the goal there is how we're going to make payroll on Friday. So I have a wide gamut of clients in many different industries, many different sizes, and with each of them come the personalities of those organizations, from the top all the way to the street. I've always been curious about new technologies. I'm a plant tour junkie. I like to see what's going on with technologies. As an example, prior to the advent of the digital camera, before there were a lot of digital cameras, I was telling my audiences that the time is coming when their grandkids are going to climb up in their lap and say, "Tell me about when you used to use film." Isn't that what you called it? Film? And you could take as many as 36 pictures on a roll of film, and you could drive to a resource that could show you your prints in an hour. And they're going to think that's the funniest thing going. Well, during that time, I was telling my audiences, this is what's happening in the world of photography, in the world of imaging. So I can tell you now that the time is coming when your grandkids are going to climb up into your lap and say, "Tell me about when you used to use a keyboard." Isn't that what you called it, a keyboard? Or you used voice commands? Because there will be the ability to transfer information from our minds to our units. If you don't believe that, check out what Stephen Hawking is doing these days. So we look at these changes in technology, and of course I look at it through the sales lens. How is that going to impact what's happening in sales? One of my clients is a major electronics company. A member of their organization heard me make that presentation about film. And they called me in because they were launching a rebuild of their home entertainment division. And they were going to introduce a projector television, kind of like the one pictured here, a projector television at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. It was such a big deal that it was one of the top 5 products that was introduced, and all the major networks showed it. I was working with them. It was an incredible product because it was a projection TV just like everybody else's, but it accommodated the digital camera. There was a cable that came out of it, and you could attach the cable to the camera. And then you could scroll through the projector and look at all of your pictures. You could frame them, you could crop them, and then you could hit the print button, and a photo quality print would come out the front of the unit. It didn't make it to market because before they could get it to mass distribution, too many other opportunities had come along. The projection TV went away because of home projectors and LED screens and then LCD screens. There was a lot of change happening that made their brilliant idea not work. And then I have an interest in new processes. One of my clients once said, we would like for you to take a course in Kaizen or Lean prior to working with our sales team because that's one of our primary differentiators. So I took the course, and as I did, I thought this is a place where sales needs to be. And I created Kaizen for Sales. How do you take the principles of Kaizen into the sales department or to the sales effort and make sales calls better, faster, and at a lower cost? New processes are there. I was asked by a producer of a major news network to appear on a podcast to talk about technology in sales. And so the time came and we were talking, and I realized the producer was not getting what they had hoped they would get on the podcast. And I quickly thought back and I remembered just a few months before, we had had lunch together. And over lunch, I talked about what's going to happen at the grocery store. We'll be walking down the aisle and our phone will vibrate and we look at it. And there's a message that says, Chuck, you normally buy a family-sized box of cornflakes every 3 weeks. You haven't bought one in a while. They're to your right on the bottom shelf. Here's a coupon. Now, all that technology is available right now. But I wasn't mentioning it on the podcast because, as I said, months had passed and NFC had given way to Bluetooth and some other technologies. There's a lot of processes that are changing. Are you going to be a market leader? Are you going to be an early adapter? Or are you going to be a wait and see kind of individual? There's no right answer there. Either of those or any of those could be correct. Finish this statement. If I always do what I've always done, what's the rest of it? I will have less than I've ever had before. We used to say, if I always do what I've always done, I'll always get what I've always got. Those days are over. What's happening? The world is moving ahead. Technologies, processes, demographics, regulations, the weather, and we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. So as you start planning how 2023 is going to impact your 2024, one of the things you want to consider is the elephant in the room, and that is artificial intelligence. It's not coming. It's here. Would you help me by clicking the subscribe button below? If you do, you'll become rich, famous, and successful in just a matter of weeks. Why can't I say that? Well, it could happen. They could win the lottery or something, but would you click the button anyway, please? There are opportunities now for you to be using artificial intelligence already with your clients. Now, it varies with every company, with every business model, with every industry, with every market, so I can't cover any of those things here, but start thinking in terms of how will artificial intelligence be used in your organization or your industry, and how will your customers expect artificial intelligence to be utilized in your interactions with them. The graphic that I picked for the elephant in the room is this one. You will notice something about the room. It's finished. It's been sheetrocked and the mud has been sanded. It's ready to go. But there is no primer. You will determine the primer for your organization. And there's no top coat. You can paint it any color you like. And there are no furnishings. It can be used for anything that you like. You want to think about how AI is going to impact every aspect of your business or your personal life. In sales, some of the things that we will ask are, is it time for you to fine-tune the familiar or redefine the process? Fine-tuning the familiar means you're going to keep on doing what you're doing already. You're just going to do it better, faster, and at a lower cost. Redefining the process means the game has changed and you want to go to the next level. Do you redefine the process? Do you fine-tune the familiar? That's a decision you will want to make. Many of the apps that are coming out right now that are AI-based are white-collar apps. They're looking to replace some of those difficult decisions that are made at the management level or at the C level, bringing in reams of data, giving us capabilities we've never had before to make better decisions and to make them faster. In sales, we're looking at proposals. Suppose you wanted to expand into a new industry, and you explored the industry and picked a couple of clients and you succeeded with one of them. AI is available now that will write your future proposals for you. In fact, you could input certain data points, go to bed that night, wake up the next morning and realize hundreds of your target accounts had received an overnight proposal while you were sleeping, fully customized, mentions their data, their company, their industry. And you can start prioritizing which of the responses that are coming back because your inbox is full or your voicemail is full, and you decide how you're going to move forward. It's here, it's now. Marketing, of course, has been using AI, and they're going to use it to an even greater extent. And when I say marketing, I'm talking about your marketing or your competitor's marketing. You decide. So you want to prepare and structure yourself now for the future. There's many open source AI programs on the internet. You can pick one and start experimenting with it now. This is one that I picked up the other day just at random. Here's a screenshot from my phone. And here's how I use that same AI program to write a dissertation. I went in, I was going to speak in Oregon, Eugene, Oregon. So I asked it to give me 100 words on Eugene, Oregon, and here's what it spit out in about 5 seconds. Rather than going online and searching, here's what it spit out. As a joke, I said, write me a limerick about Eugene, Oregon. And it came back with this. There was a man from, well, it's not a very good limerick, but it's a limerick. And this is where we are going. This is the unpainted wall. This is the beginning. And we're going to find these technologies are going to help us tremendously in sales. So here's an overview. Buyers' habits have changed. Therefore, their expectations have changed. They were forced to use the internet, and they found that they could work better and faster and get more done just by using the internet. Their knowledge of vendors and the vendors' competitors, meaning their existing vendors as well as the alternatives, increased significantly. They were exposed to other alternatives. Maybe I don't need to use pencils anymore. I can use markers. It was fast. The presentation, the response, the delivery, and the service all happened very quickly. There's economic uncertainty coming. Whether it's real or forecast, economic uncertainty is now running in the marketplace, and customers and buyers are changing the way they buy. There are going to be some operational limitations. One is labor. Now, we don't know how labor is going to pan out. It may work for you, it may work against you, depending on your market or industry. There could be some very good talent available, or it may continue to be difficult to find people who are willing to come to work. Upgrades of your software and hardware and hard goods, that's going to be something you want to look at so you can stay competitive. Regulations will improve or increase, most likely, because Washington just doesn't know how to do more regulations. But the real unknown is the unknown. We don't know what we don't know, and having to forecast and make decisions going forward based on the uncertainties is getting to be a real dilemma. There are three key terms you'll want to think about in doing your 2023 forecast. The first one is hybrid technologies, and I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. Demographics and how those are shifting and changing mostly in our favor. And then the economy. I'm not going to talk about the economy. That's not one of my strengths. And the best artificial intelligent engine in the world focuses on the economy. You can tap into it by going to Armstrong Economics. It's one of the most sophisticated, it's one of the most advanced engines. They've been on the cutting edge, bleeding edge, leading edge of technology since the day it was brought up. So let's look for a moment at hybrid technologies. An easy example of this is your smartphone. I recently upgraded my smartphone, and now just with my smartphone, I can send and receive messages, I can check my emails. I have a very sophisticated camera now, still and video. I can record programs like this with my camera if I choose. I can access the web, I can surf the web, I can do my pre-call planning. I have a timer that makes sure I get up in time or finish on time. I can check the weather. GPS gets me where I want to go, and there's a bunch of apps that I use. And oh, by the way, I can make phone calls. We're looking at this blended technology, this hybrid technology. And I realize now I don't really need the phone. I can just look at my watch, and there's the information. I asked CEOs, should school children have to learn the state capitals? We did. Well, what will that information be used for, and can't they just ask their watch and their watch will tell them? We're living in a different world, a different environment. Hybrid technologies also means making the best use of your existing capabilities, the apps that your people are most familiar with. It's called blended selling. It's from the world of blended learning. Right now you are learning through this production, either by video or by audio. You could also learn through a book. You could have a speaker in the front of the room. There's a lot of different ways to learn. But we start blending them together for the purpose of creating some kind of interaction. Interaction in learning or in selling means we engage the customer physically. As you've listened to this video or watched this video, your mind has probably wandered a time or two. Well, if you were interacting, if I was having you push buttons and stop and start the recording, you would be more engaged. Having the buyer engage means having them interact physically with the audio or with the video. Hybrid technologies can give you Fortune 500 capabilities. When I sold for AT&T, it was the largest corporation in the world. When they assigned me to a new market, I could go to a market manager. When we had a new product, I could go to a product manager. When I went into a new industry, I could go to an industry manager. Well, now, today, you can have all those capabilities without adding headcount. There's a lot changing in sales, and you want to be aware of it. And then we start looking at demographics. I believe demographics are primarily going to work in our favor. You see, today, if a CEO tells me they have a home office and who do I call when I have a computer glitch, I tell them you can call Geek Squad or the 8-year-old kid next door. Either one of them can fix it for you. They're looking today and saying, well, why do you call it tape a program when there's no tape involved? Or why do you call it dialing a number when there's no dial? And what was dial tone anyway? And what do you mean by long distance? A lot of the terminology that is familiar to most leaders is completely lost on the incoming generations. However, with the changes in the economy and the changes in the market, we can expect labor issues to begin moving more in our favor, where people are going to find enjoyment in employment, but also the necessity of having that steady job and doing a good job at keeping it. Finally, let's look at streamlined hierarchies. What in the world is that? Using hybrid technologies and blended learning and blended capabilities and some other things, we can now streamline the bureaucracy that we've had to build when we lacked those capabilities. If we take a typical organization chart and start looking at the responsibilities and communications and so forth, we find that with AI, many leadership positions can become management positions, and many management roles can become overseer roles. You see, AI can make a better decision. So the leader may not need to make the decision, only oversee the impact, oversee the data that's going into the AI. We're going to see some whole new models in leadership and in management. Those of you who have been through the Kaizen for Sales program know the mantra was better, faster, lower cost. Make every sales call better than the last one, faster than the last one, and spending less money to do it. Well, the new mantra now is more transactions, less time, higher profits. We're looking at how we can use all of these new skills that are coming and change the way we interact with a more sophisticated buyer. The buyers are more sophisticated based on what they learned during the pandemic. Fortune 500 capabilities are there. You can have market managers and product managers. AI created marketing is something that you'll want to make sure you are focusing on. I have a client on Madison Avenue. If you would like to sell only to the families where the mom and dad are in their 40s, they have 2 kids, mom and dad each went to separate Ivy League schools, one drives a German car, one drives a Japanese car, and they have a St. Bernard, they can give you the name, address, telephone number, and email addresses for those people. There's no reason for us to be blitzing any longer when we can focus. AI can do that for us. It can create introductions, customized, tailored introductions, thousands of them at a time in a matter of seconds. As I mentioned earlier, AI can do proposals for us, so we don't have to labor over having to do those proposals and spending so much time and energy on them. Greater trust and reliance on AI is coming. I don't ask you to trust it now because it's in its infancy, but begin learning it. When you first heard about desktop computers, did you trust them? But as you learned them, you found they could work for you, then they could work with you. Generational changes will continue. As new demographics come into the workforce, those generational changes are going to happen. In my world, as a sales developer, I've had to hone my skills in speaking and training and consulting and technology and in representation when I go out and help salespeople on a sales call or help CEOs interact with their clients and boards of directors. So we're looking at what's happening in sales based on the new technologies. Well, here's a checklist for you. As you develop your outcome, your goals, your plans, your strategies for 2023 as they will impact 2024, first of all, have a qualified and quantified outcome. That means it's clear. A goal is not a goal unless it's written, quantified, and dated. So if your outcome is not measurable, you're not quite done with it. And then prepare a plan B now, just in case there's some other incident. And you might also want to consider preparing a plan C based on what you see happening in your industry, in your market. Have regular collaboration sessions. These are gold. My clients that are using these now are reaping tremendous benefits. This is when you get everyone on a team together. You discuss a particular topic. It may not be but 15 or 30 minutes, maybe an hour, once a week. And you rotate the facilitators. So you have each person facilitate a session. Before the session, everyone reads the article, watches the video, listens to the audio. Then they come together and discuss, how will this work for us? Will this work for us? Why is it not appropriate for our organization? You can find plenty of topics out there, articles, videos, audios. There's plenty of information. Then gather frequent input from multiple sources. Don't trust one source. I highly recommend being a member of a trade association, not only yours, but the trade association for your primary clients. Join a peer group. If you're a CEO and not involved in a CEO peer group, you may be missing a grand opportunity. And primarily, stay flexible. What's going to happen in 2023 into 2024, we don't know. We can suggest, we can see some of the technologies and some of the processes that are improving, but also make sure you're getting plenty of information from other sources and stay flexible. The difference in the winners, the also-rans, and the losers during the last pandemic, during 2020 and 2021, was primarily their ability to be prepared. And remember, as you go through all of this, teach others.